Let's discuss this further with our guest. Joining us from Berlin is Ali Fathollah-Nejad. He is the director of the Center for Middle East and Global Order, the think tank, and is the author of Iran and an Emerging New World Order. And from New York is Roxane Farmanfarmian. She is a professor of Middle East politics at the University of Cambridge and is a Middle East and Gulf Affairs security specialist. A very warm welcome to both of you. Professor Farmanfarmian, we've had 7 consecutive nights of US strikes hitting infrastructure inside Iran. The country's openly launched direct missile and drone strikes against US facilities in neighbouring countries. We've just heard hitting power and water desalination plants in Kuwait. Professor, from a historical standpoint, what has shifted inside Tehran's strategic thinking right now? A strategy that used to rely heavily on proxy forces to maintain a degree of deniability.
Well, I think what we see, thank you very much. I think what we're seeing is a gradual lack of feeling that any kind of restraint is going to be beneficial to negotiations. I think we're seeing from the op-eds that we're reading inside Iran's newspapers and media that there is a hardening generally in feeling that Iran needs to hit hard. It needs to sustain and show endurance, but also to affect American ability to maintain too much of a time on this war. So I think what we're seeing is that they're using Kuwait in particular as an example of what they can do in retaliation. The United States is clearly hitting the south in Iran and hitting airports and desalination plants and bridges. And so the same kinds of things are being hit now in Kuwait to show what kind of effect Iran really can have on those countries that are hosting American bases.
Dr. Fathollah-Nejad, Professor Farmanfarmian says Kuwait is being made an example of. Iran must be fully aware that the more it retaliates with attacks on energy and water plants, the more it bombs itself into isolation, surely?
Well, that's true. There are important risks of this Iranian strategy to reciprocate to U.S. attacks by targeting the Arab Gulf states. So this has been seen as a great betrayal by many of those states. And there are obviously costs. So one cost could be a more unified GCC stance vis-a-vis Iran. It is also very unclear whether the Islamic Republic is going to reach its stated goal that the GCC states, as a consequence of Iranian attacks, will abandon a U.S. security umbrella, although there are serious doubts about about this umbrella. But this is also an unlikely path that is going to be taken by the GCC states. So this is, and plus the fact that many of those states are looking to diversify their energy export routes. So this is very clear. But perhaps in addition to what was said before, first of all, I agree there is a clear shift in strategic thinking in Tehran, especially after the demise and the killing of Ali Khamenei, the long-time supreme leader, who has been quite, cautious about directly confronting the United States. Now we see that in escalating regional factional infighting within the regime in Iran between the hardline pragmatists on one hand and the ultra-hardliners on the other hand. And the ultra-hardliners seem to be dictating the dynamic. And this new Iranian strategy of escalation is formed from new strategic considerations of deterrence against a new full-fledged attack on the Islamic Republic that could destabilize the regime, a sense of hubris as well from this ultra-hardline camp that, first of all, Iran has emerged victorious, plus the costs of confrontation are absorbable, and deep skepticism, and this is very important vis-a-vis the other camp, the hardline pragmatist camp that has been leading Iranian negotiations. So there's no, trust in them. Plus, in this context, it's also a struggle not only about the new distribution of power in post-Ali Khamenei Iran, but also about the political and economic weight of each of those factions in a future Iran.
Thanks for that. Back to you, Professor Roxane. I mean, irrespective of where you sit on the political spectrum inside Iran, whether you're a hardliner, or whether you're a hardline pragmatist, as Dr. Fathollah-Nejad mentioned, I wonder to what extent this memorandum of understanding was a memorandum of misunderstanding from the outset. Paragraph 5, I mean, it provides for toll-free commercial shipping, but only for a temporary 60-day window. I mean, critics argue this is a massive flaw that allows Tehran to eventually impose permanent transit fees or at the very least regulatory checkpoints. This looks like a glaring flaw in the paperwork. I mean, how do you understand this was even agreed upon to start with?
Well, I think there are a couple of flaws in the MOU, and that's certainly Article 5 is one that says specifically that Iran is the state that can make arrangements in the Hormuz Strait and never mentions the United States. So I think what we're seeing is that the Strait of Hormuz has actually been promoted from being a simple bargaining chip to now an issue of sovereignty for Iran, and has acquired a status similar to that of the nuclear file. So I think it is now a question that it is not at all going to step back. And on top of that, in many ways, it's the area that's more important to Trump than reducing the nuclear holdings of Iran, because it is affecting both the American economy and the international economy, and really has the potential of impacting Trump's position during the midterm. So there's a time limit on all of this as well. And I think Iranians are very aware of that. And that is why the United States is hitting primarily the southern areas. And I think the amount of civilian damage at the moment and civilian infrastructure is extremely high. And I think that what we're seeing is this is confirming the newer position of the Iranian leadership, which I don't quite agree with everything that was said. I think they are showing overall quite a bit of cohesion in the way they are approaching this, and are feeling as though coercion simply is not going to affect their ability to endure. And so what we're seeing is really a balance between how long can the American escalation go and versus the Iranian endurance, because both have a great deal of at stake. And my feeling is there will be a time when they realize that a repeat of extreme violence is actually not going to bring them any closer to a solution, and they will go back to negotiating.
All right, a difference of opinion clearly between you as to how divided or cohesive the Iranian leadership is right now. As a final question to you, Dr. Fathollah-Nejad, I'd like to look at the broader theatre here, because Israel has been uncharacteristically quiet during this heavy US-led bombardment of Iranian infrastructure. What is Israel's strategic calculus in keeping such a low profile in relation to Iran right now, in your view?
Well, that's true. In comparison to previous rounds of military escalation between the two sides, such as, of course, the 12-day war of June of last year, where Israel has been, the major, military actor there. And also back in March, Israel has been, despite the MOU, very much adamant to continue its military campaign against Hezbollah in Lebanon, which has been a source of deep frustration within, especially the Iran's hardline camp, about the promises being made in the MOU, and this is one of the factors that have been unraveling here. But it seems that from the Israeli perspective, that there is no need to get involved at this current phase in the military campaign against the Islamic Republic. But it remains to be seen if this is not going to change further down the road.
Well, it's been a pleasure hearing from both of you. Many thanks for joining us on Al Jazeera. Ali Fathollah-Nejad, founder and director of the Centre for Middle East and Global Order, and Roxane Farmanfarmian, professor of Middle East politics at the University of Cambridge, joining us there from New York. Thank you.